My name is Jon Gosier. I'm the director of the Swift River Project. And Swift River exists to solve a growing problem in the crowdsourcing community, and that's how to make sense of too much information, what you do when you have too much data. It's a growing problem for a number of organizations, even outside of the humanitarian community. It's a problem that a number of organizations are trying to solve. But what we're very interested in is finding people within the crowd who we trust within the crowd and who offers the most valid information. And what I like to think about is sort of football teams. The way football teams operate is they have a plan. They go into every situation with a plan. Whether they don't know the landscape and they don't quite know what they're going to do when they're out there on the field. But it's very similar to how the military operates. They go into a situation sight unseen, they gather as much intelligence as they can on the field, and then they operate. My friend Patrick Meyer likes to call some of the backlash against crowdsourcing as crowdsorcery. People have a tendency to distrust the crowd. They're untrained. They're not experts. They don't agree with your funding. Or sometimes they do. But all these things just highlight the growing information problem, the information overload problem that exists. So when you think of football versus philanthropy, football teams operate with coaches, teams, and objectives. They go for the win. The humanitarian industry tends to approach situations with a bit of arrogance, a bit of assumptions, and that equals something else. But they operate in very similar ways, and what you don't have is a whole lot of listening to the crowd. You're not in a stadium playing football, listening to the fans because you never do anything. But what we have the advantage of as crisis response groups and the various organizations that we work with is we can listen to the crowd. We don't need to assume. We don't need to go into situations without getting feedback because we're affecting people's lives. And this reminds me of a bit of chaos theory. The humanitarian industry is not completely deterministic. Putting 1, 2, 3 into your plans before you go into a situation is not going to equal a guaranteed result. You have a bit of chaos. You have a bit of what's called the butterfly effect. Things quickly spiral out of control. So, as a buffer against that, you can use the crowd. And you can use them to inform your decisions, to supplement your labor, to gauge public sentiment, and to empower citizens. Empower citizens by empowering them to engage with you, who does have the expertise and the resources. I like to call this folksonomic triage. Using the crowd to help you validate the crowd is a resource that Google does very well, other organizations, Facebook. The whole idea of crowdsourcing is sort of based on pulling in information, but how can you overlap that with the data you're collecting, the data you're generating, and use that to help you make sense of what the crowd is saying? Does the crowd agree with the crowd? They might be talking the same language. They might be saying the same thing. So these are just some of the techniques we use. Happy to talk at the Tech Analysis Fair about the technology, but the bigger picture is pulling all of this together to formulate decisions. This is an arc diagram that I made to sort of visualize how our particular platform does this. So the slides are going a bit too fast to talk in detail, but basically there's one user voting against the rest of the community, and these are all the things that we're considering to rule that person out. As you can see, there's a lot of different things going on. You're looking at time, you're looking at location. All those things help you make sense of that information. And finally, I would like to say there's always someone in the crowd you can trust. There's always someone there who knows a lot, who, after all, doesn't trust Dawson Leary. Thank you.